is Cheril Hardy. I'm going to write that down.
Cheril Hardy, yeah.
Cheril Hardy. That is one sick individual. This woman is so dishonest and so power hungry. She's willing to put a man not accused of any harm. Let's make this clear. He's not accused of hurting anybody. He's a peaceful guy. And she is ordering a not only incarceration, she's ordering a psychological evaluation. She's questioning the man's sanity because he's questioning the required evidentiary basis that the prosecution has for their claim.
She has no training in psychology. She has no expert witness in the room. She's keeping him in a prison cell and taking away any avenue of release. Now, it's extremely unpopular for people to conceive of, wait, is it possible that the country I live in no longer has anything to do with actual freedom where the rubber meets the road? I mean, this is the most minor of traffic court, quote-unquote, violations, and this is happening. It's not easy for people to digest this, that I live in something that is just a few steps away from Nazi Germany and people dying. But I don't see how people, if they have the courage to take an honest look at the situation, how they can come to any other conclusion. I don't like that feeling it puts in my stomach either, but I honestly, sincerely, I'm like, oh, I'm within the borders claimed as the United States of America. I'm in deep shit.
I'm not going to give out the number for a bit because we're already loaded up, but I want to bring Joe up. Joe has got an update on Bao because I believe he spoke with him already. So welcome back to the show, Joe. So you've spoken with Bao?
Well, I'm sorry. I meant to relay that I've spoken to him probably more than anyone else. I've done a lot of one-on-one preps for court with him. I did listen to the 2 phone calls that he made from jail to members of the Skype group and heard his account. What else can I clarify for you?
Well, just let us know what's going on now. Now we get that you've got some personal knowledge there, so just let us know, pretty much what's going on.
Right. So basically, what this is a standard scare tactic. We've seen it before. First with a guy named Scar a couple years ago, and Gabe. I believe there was one other who got psyche valved.
Did they do that to Robbie? Did they do that to Robbie?
Yes, they did as well. You're correct. They forced him on him too. So this seemed like an ambush. Bao was, he's coming along nicely with his, practice and role plays and whatnot. He did not, quote unquote, mess up and kind of like not see the contempt threat coming and just missed it and got clumsy. He didn't do that. And while speaking from jail, I mean, I've never heard a guy sound more upbeat. So he's not in there kind of going, what the heck, with any kind of panic. I mean, he knows, trust me, I made it more than clear what the risks were. He was heads up. And when this happens to somebody, what I try to keep in mind is, oh, there's such a silver lining to this cloud. Like, whenever somebody comes out, this is the first time he's ever had to deal with something like this, being in a cage like this, for this reason. The experience adds something to what they bring to the table in the future. It's always exciting for me to discover what that new thing is. These types of, it's my humble belief, right or wrong, that these types of actions taken by these criminals, legalized criminals we call judges, are ultimately self-defeating, that they ultimately only strengthen their true and only effective opposition, us, anarchists, and that it's just a matter of time before they figure that out. One last thing I want to conclude before I give you the mic, Mark, is I just want to bounce an idea off of you, and maybe you've already been doing this. In short, obviously if we take what we do in court to the fullest extent that we can, it can easily last up to a year. Have you ever thought of, along with your brilliant documents or motions that we all file, have you ever thought of combining those with a short-term game that is specifically designed to resolve the entire issue within one hearing, the first arraignment attempt? We get to say a few sentences as to the true observable reality that's actually going on, based on, of course, logic, ethics, and factual evidence. Then basically say, you know, what do I need to say? What lie do you need me to tell? How much do I need to pay for this to all go away and me to be free of your coercive threats? And I wonder if people saw that, and if judges heard that across the country and growing. I mean, it could even be close to a script if it was short enough. I wonder how it would affect them if they saw a unified movement from an anarchistic cause challenging the crucial missing element of jurisdiction. What do you say?
Well, I think we kind of do that with the unsigned plea of guilty. Hey, I'm willing to plead guilty, like, now, if the prosecution has met their burden. I mean, wouldn't that... You would think, anyway, that would make quite an impact.
That's true. Of course that's true. But as you know, the judges can kind of ignore that. Unless we were to say, hey, here's my unsigned plea of guilty, and I'm going to sign it and pay the fine and be done with all this today no matter what. I just make a few challenges to their missing factual evidence and then actually go ahead and sign and pay the money. I mean, as you well know, most people can't go to court. They got to go to jobs. That's why they schedule court during business hours. And so I'm just wondering about offering a one-day strategy for people in those situations. I don't know. This isn't fleshed out, so by all means, feel free to criticize. I'm just tossing it out there.
I think the only other thing that I would add in there as a way to kind of raise the stakes, at least for them, would be, I'm willing to plead guilty right now if the prosecution has met their prima facie burden. However, if that is not allowed and you cover for the prosecution's lack of evidence, then I want, then see here, this is a draft of a claim I'm filing against your insurance today.
I like that. Maybe I can best summarize this way too. As you well know, playing out the long game and taking this to the extent that we're able to will always be done differently by different individuals. And I see them taking advantage of this. I see them, as judges always do, probe for weaknesses and then exploit them as much as they can. And because, as you well know probably better than I, that it's really impossible to train layman members of the public to be really good at this effectively, within months or whatnot. I just wonder if the judge is seeing the solidarity of scripted language, I just wonder how they would respond to that, because I'm just looking at it as what's effective. I know what Bao's doing is effective because I basically judge effectiveness by how much fear it causes in the actions they display. I'm just want to bounce this off you for your input. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's accurate to say that the reason why these handful of people, thank goodness, have been dealt with the way they've been dealt with is because they are not wanting these challenges to be done. Because and you've heard, you're familiar enough, that the only, what's the word I'm looking for? The only counter argument that they have is to just make the claim that the prosecution isn't required to prove the foundation of their complaint. Because when it comes down to it, all we're doing is challenging the prosecutor or the police officer or the tax agent's legal conclusion. That's all, that's what it comes down to.
Sure.
And for them, so you have to take that context and weigh that against, to the extreme responses that we sometimes get. And could it be fear? Could it be, humiliation? Something is driving them to keep us, and make an example of somebody like Val, to not go into court and do that? Is it because, so could it be fear? It may actually be accurate. Yeah. Hold on just a second. We're up against the break. My name is Mark Stevens. Listen to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, and I think it's a good idea to go in with a unsigned plea of guilty, of course, and let the judge know that if you're not going to hold the prosecution to their burden, I'm going to be filing my initial claim today against the city or the county's insurance for the damage that you're going to cause me. You seem very intent on causing me, but we'll be back with Joe in just a moment. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm going to bring Joe back up in just a moment here, and I got some the cliff notes regarding what happened with Judge Hardy and Bao. So what they're saying here, Judge said Bao asked for if jurisdiction was an element. Judge said she appointed a lawyer for him. Bao objected. Contempt was never an issue. Let's see, the lawyer had tried to talk to him. He said no thanks. Back in the court, the public defender whispered something to the judge. Judge said she's going to enter a psych eval. So it's definitely a psychological evaluation. At that, he was detained and everything was taken from him. No psych evaluation yet. A second arraignment with a judge, with a video judge. The magistrate pushed him pretty hard to say he understands, but he never said yes. She said everyone's rights to them as a whole. No charges were read. He was never informed of what the max penalty is or whatever he did. Right after that, there was another person in the room, tells him to sign. Bao didn't sign or agree to anything. Telling me I'm being held without bond, without a bond amount. Jail is mental bullying. If anything, one of the things he was trying to... Okay. The judge told him is now the bond's been lifted, whatever that means, and you need to see if you can get it unlifted. Wow. Well, welcome back, Joe. So were you aware of these details?
Yeah, most of them. The one detail that you mentioned that I want to make sure we don't gloss over was this lawyer, this public defender that the judge forced onto his quote-unquote side or whatever, was never helpful. Was only speaking for the state, and when he went back into the courtroom with Bao, first he was whispering to the judge. Now that may not be I'm having a brain fart here. I'm sick too. What is it called when the prosecutor and the judge talk in the hallway without anyone else? Gosh, I can't believe I'm so embarrassed. What's that?
Ex parte.
Yes, thank you. Ex parte. It may not have been the prosecutor, so it may not be ex parte that way, but of course, I'll never agreed to have this person represent him. It was against his will. He made that clear. And because it was a public defender, he was both licensed by and paid by the accuser. So I can't wait to see the motions that are going to go in to address these issues. But I thought that was one of many appealable errors and something I just didn't want to skip past.
Oh, sure. I appreciate that. And someone's telling me here that they have him on a suicide watch. Now...
Oh, I totally would bet money, sorry to interrupt, that is only so that they can keep him in solitary confinement. They do not want what he's bringing into the jail for their other inmates to hear. This courthouse is aware of the video that I posted specifically about them. They are fully aware of what I'm bringing to the table on YouTube, and what, I can put their full names on a video, and now it's searchable forever.
Yeah, I got to do that with
solitary confinement justification. Yeah, go ahead.
I got to do that. I'm sorry for interrupting. That Judge David Gates. Now, when you search for David Gates, even though there's only that one picture available, you will get my videos.
Perfect.
Which on the front page. I know
they hate that.
Yeah, and Stephen Myrie, I've got a video I'm putting together, and I was able to confirm based on his professional history, because it included where he went to school. I actually have a very good picture of him. It's unfortunately 40 years old, but it's still a picture of him. So we're going to have a nice HD picture of that scumbag who, whether you agree with the Bundys or not, is completely irrelevant. This man was engaged in multiple cases of flagrant prosecutorial misconduct, and so when you type in his name, my video, and it already is there because I put his name in the title of the last video. When you type in Stephen Myrie, you will get my video now. So I definitely, yeah, so I can't, hopefully Monday or Tuesday I'll be able to put that together, but there's no information about this guy. But we have a picture of this judge that someone sent me, and so that's probably right. I mean, look, from what has been reported to me, and I do appreciate this, I'm not going to give the name out. I don't know if they want me to give the name out who gave me this information, but you've been able to verify this, that asking if jurisdiction is an element of the charge is somehow now sufficient factual grounds to warrant a psychological evaluation?
Yeah, and keep in mind, a lot of courtrooms, including the one I have here locally, until about a year ago, before the judge even came out for a typical traffic session, the court clerk would get everybody together, hey, everybody got to say stuff, and as she would give a speech to prepare this crowd for traffic court, one of the things she specifically said was, you have this right, you have this right, you have this right, you have the right to be informed of all elements of the criminal charge. And then they stopped saying it altogether. So it's in their scripts. Even their system has in the past acknowledged this, and that's why it makes the point you just made even, all the more valid. Total hypocrisy.
It really is disgraceful. And, of course, the hypocrisy that's through it, the double standards, it's one right after the other. And because, look, we know based on this behavior that if we were to say to the judge after they confirm that the prosecution can argue without evidence, and look, let me see if I understand. The prosecution can make legal claims against me with no evidence. And what would happen if I did that to you, or I made legal claims against the prosecution with no evidence? What would happen to me? You know damn well they would be threatening contempt.
Oh, yeah.
But the prosecutor can get away with it. So here, this is horrible. And anybody no one has come out and said, and hell, that was on the show. I mean, I think it was only the one time, maybe a month or so ago. But I have spoken with him for more than one segment, and based on that and what other people are reporting to me, there's nothing to indicate that the guy's suicidal.
Yeah, that's a total joke. Bao is one of the most happy-go-lucky people I know, and I am not just saying that because he's in Suicide Watch. I would bet $1,000 cash money that he's not worried even close to that. And if you listen to the recordings of him talking from jail, and I'm a guy who's talked to him for hours upon hours. He is not in any kind of downer, depressed mood. I've talked to more than one person calling from jail in my day, and after they immediately get out, and man, Bao's in good shape. I wasn't even worried about that.
Well, it's definitely, I don't think there's any doubt that this is a scare tactic, and this is just to get somebody to shut up. And, again, how many times have we got to say this? This is a matter of moral importance and ethics, honesty. If the prosecutor could support their claim, they would just put the evidence on the table. You could be wrong about a legal conclusion or a legal position, and the idea that they want you for a psych evaluation, for questioning a lawyer's claim, or in this case, it's also a police officer's claim. Wow, that's some serious criminality there. But I think I've got enough information here to get a habeas, and I don't remember the name, but there is somebody who is in touch with me who is in the area, who is going to be able to do the habeas. He's going to be able to file it for him.
Oh, good deal. Heck yeah, that's good to know.
Well, and we'll have to follow this. We'll be I don't know if I have any information for the Wednesday show, but hopefully, definitely for next Saturday's show, we'll have some information about what they're going to do with it. Keep in mind, this is Texas, and it's a habeas corpus, so they are going to do whatever they can to not hear it. And look, Joe, that's why I have those 3 monkeys on the back of Adventures in Legoland. You realize anybody who spent any time with these people realizes when it comes to the truth, they cover their eyes, they cover their ears, they cover their mouth. They don't want to see it, they don't want to hear it, they don't want to talk about it. And so they find reasons to not do anything with the habeas corpus. So I'll have to make a prediction. I think I already mentioned this. They're going to say he's represented by counsel and we can't do the habeas. That's probably what they're going to use. We know it's BS, but that's there's a good chance they're going to say that to avoid having to act on it.
Mm-hmm. And I also believe that a lot of the source of their motivation comes from, or maybe, I don't want to be certain, but I just find it highly likely that a lot of it comes from them calculating how the average random YouTube viewer will, what.
We're up against a break, so just hold on, Joe. We'll be back. We'll be back here on the No State Project with Joe in just a few moments. So we're at the top of the hour break, second of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio. So we'll be right back. Don't go away. Yes, welcome to the No State Project for January 20th, 2018, here live from the fortified compound in San Bernardino, California. I'm not going to give the number out because we have a full line of calls that we're going to get to. I'll get back to Joe in just a moment. The idea, people, think about it. What kind of person questions a man's sanity just because he's questioning if jurisdiction is an element of the charge? Why not just say yes or no and answer the question? You put a man in solitary confinement, basically. You put him on a suicide watch. Why? Because he had the audacity to challenge some lawyer? Welcome back, Joe. What we were talking about was how crazy it is, where you can see just how dishonest things are when you're just asking for evidence and a psychological evaluation. I mean, it would be questionable at best, or at least if somebody was just asking for proof that 1 + 1 = 2. Like, what? You could prove that. I mean, you could just go through the steps. You could do it on your hands. And the idea that you question someone's sanity because they're asking for proof, I mean, kaba funk all these people. How much more proof do we need that these people are crooks? I would certainly recommend doing a claim against Tarrant County risk management, the ones who are actually holding him there against what this judge did. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have written this down. I hate when I do that. What is that? The judge's name is Cheril Hardy. I'm going to write that down.
Cheril Hardy, yeah.
Cheril Hardy. That is one sick individual. Look, I know we haven't had success with this yet. I'm hoping that when you have something as egregious as this, so it doesn't just go to risk management, it should also go to the county commissioners, knowing that this woman is so dishonest and so power hungry. She's willing to put a man not accused of any harm. Let's make this clear. He's not accused of hurting anybody. He's a peaceful guy. And she's ordering a not only incarceration, she's ordering a psychological evaluation. She's questioning the man's sanity because he's questioning the required evidentiary basis that the prosecution has for their claim.
She has no training in psychology. She has no expert witness in the room. She's keeping him in a prison cell and taking away any avenue of release. Now, it's extremely unpopular for people to conceive of, wait, is it possible that the country I live in no longer has anything to do with actual freedom where the rubber meets the road? I mean, this is the most minor of traffic court, quote-unquote, violations, and this is happening. It's not easy for people to digest this, that I live in something that is just a few steps away from Nazi Germany and people dying. but I don't see how people, if they have the courage to take an honest look at the situation, how they can come to any other conclusion. I don't like that feeling it puts in my stomach either, but I honestly, sincerely, I'm like, oh, I'm within the borders claimed as the United States of America. I'm in deep shit. I'm sorry. Sorry for the language.
No, that's okay. Look, this is
what I mean?
This is an emotional issue. You know, it gets your, you know, at least gets my Sicilian going, because these are real people. Bao is a real person, in a lay sense, and to have someone, this Cheril Hardy, be so callous. And even if you are like one of the critics, Joe, and you say, look, Mark, look, the prosecution does have evidence. They can prove it, but it's a trial. Even if you take that stance, that is still, even just asking for the evidence they're supposed to have and holding them to their burden of proof is not grounds to question someone's sanity. This is purely punitive. This is a woman on a power trip. This is somebody, I'm not going to say she's a sociopath or a psychopath, because this is only one example, but it is certainly exhibiting psychopathic tendencies in that she's doing something that is so callous, and she's doing it apparently so easily.
Oh, sure.
And for something so... Look, you've got people in for real crimes that are treated better. You've got people in Texas that, let's say, you know, the kid who killed somebody, and the judge didn't incarcerate him because he didn't think, because he was rich and didn't think he would handle prison well. Right?
Yeah, it seems to be getting worse and worse.
He killed somebody, and this one, he did less time than Bao was doing.
Well, see, if you look at, I can think of a few historical examples where the governments were basically more or less just like ours, but advanced in the tyranny category a few more steps. And what you see is that the corrupt state considers those who challenge its authority with logic and reason as the most dangerous members of society, far more dangerous to the state than actual thieves, robbers, and rapists. In fact, those thieves, robbers, and rapists have, in the past, been paroled out of jail, given a billy club, a pardon, and said, if you will serve the state and go take care of our security needs, you're good. And they know that that actual legit criminal will take them up on it. Now, I don't want to say, oh, that could happen in the U.S. and, you know, people accuse me of being some kind of fear-mongering. I'm just looking at historical examples in the past to point that your point is valid and correct. I do believe they consider us a bigger threat to their sustained, continued power than people who actually commit violent crimes.
Oh, sure.
I think it's easy to call this judge antisocial because she's working against society, especially with a guy like Bao. He's like the nicest guy. He works hard. You know, he's from Vietnam, and he's the ideal type of person we want here. A net positive taxpayer, big time, for whatever that's worth. You know what I mean? Like, they don't, I'm considering from their point of view, they don't have a reason to come down on a guy like this, except for the fact that he does what is in his best interest instead of what's in their best interest. You've got a courtroom full of people who are accepting paychecks for doing exactly that. He's in all their face.
And look what they did to Robbie. From what I know about him, is just a kind-hearted, just a very easygoing, peaceful guy. And look what they did to him. So, you know, so there you can see, you know, these examples, and someone like Jermaine, where you can see people who are very upbeat, easygoing, very nonviolent type of people, very gentle type of people, even when they're not accused of any criminal behavior. I mean, as far as violent and you know, and hurtful, that they haven't harmed anybody, to the extreme the actions that they take against such non-violent people. So for them to take such an extreme position and do what they're doing to someone who's not violent, it lends a lot of credibility. You know, I think the circumstantial evidence is, well, look, what do they consider dangerous? It's not their behavior. It must be their challenge. It must be their words, because it certainly isn't their behavior. We're completely out of time for this segment. I do appreciate the call, Joe.
Sure, anytime. It's been too long. It's good to talk to you again, Mark.
Yeah, it was good to talk with you. Appreciate it. We've got a full boat of calls here on the No State Project, so we'll get to that in the next segment. So I do appreciate everyone's patience.
When she called me up there, I went to the, fair, meaningful, and like I said, or let me just be precise. Judge, do I have the right to a fair, meaningful hearing? Yes. Judge, do I have the right to be informed of the cause and nature of the accusations and proceedings against me? Yes. Judge, am I presumed innocent? Yes. Judge, am I presumed innocent to all the elements of the accusation? Yes. Judge, is jurisdiction an element? Mr. Win, blah, 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 we're going to get you a lawyer, I'm going to put one for you, going up against, blah, 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 blah. Objection, Judge. Or objection, Judge, and she goes, denied, on what ground? Mr. Win, stop talking, go back there and said, I overheard her saying, I texted Brad. I guess she texted the lawyer that she appointed for me, allegedly. So he came up, tried to introduce himself, tried to talk to me. I didn't really want to speak with him. Looking back at it, I should have taken that opportunity to speak with him and see what he had to say. But he was just trying to pry, and get information out of me from my understanding. So I went back in the courtroom after I told him, no, thank you. They whispered some stuff, and then boom, she came up there, or she called me up there, Mr. Wynn, based on some of the things you said, I'm going to send you back in the back for a psych eval. And I objected to that. She denied it. And then boom, the bailiff, rushed me out of that area, took all my shit, detained me. I asked him, am I being detained? He said, yes. That was the end of it. The judge said, I assure you, we have jurisdiction. I'm going to appoint you a lawyer. How would I even go about all that? Because when she appointed me a lawyer, I objected. I was like, Judge, I objection. Do I need a lawyer to find out if element or if jurisdiction is an element to the crime? So they sat me down in a little corner. The lawyer came up to me, walked me outside. I told him, no, thank you. Came back inside, and she goes, Mr. Wynn, based on some of the things she said, I'm going to put you in the back for a psychological eval. They detained me at that point, threw me in a small cage behind the courtroom, transferred me from that cage to another cage, and then a big cage from them. From what I can see, I went back into the courtroom, and he came back to the courtroom, and the judge called him up, and they whispered some stuff, and then boom. Mr. Wayne, come up here. I'm going to order a psych eval on you. I objected to it. She denied it. I said, on what grounds? Boom. Bailiff, detained me, got all my stuff, and then boom. Cage. So once they detained me, they put me in the small cage behind the court. They transferred me to a booking area, Kevin. So basically everything that I had, they booked in and put me through the whole booking routine and put me on, suicide watch, or that's what they call it back here. But she was the one that ordered a psych eval. So the guys back here are saying that I'm still waiting on a psychiatrist or this, that, and the other. And they basically put a hold on my bond.
Do you think the judge put you in the cage or psych evaluation based on your question of asking about elements of jurisdiction?
Man, I'm positive she did. Like, they bullied me. Like you guys have spoken to me for the last, 3 or 4 months? Right? It's a tactic. I mean, just from basically everything that, I watched went down, it's a tactic. They're trying to bully me. This morning, they woke me up. This was yesterday, Kim. So this morning, they woke me up to go to an arraignment in another cell block, kind of like my other one, but this time with a video judge, like on a little TV.
Wow.
And she was a magistrate telling me to understand stuff, and I was like, man, I heard everything you said, but gosh, I mean, how clear can I make that? And she was like, well, you're being held without bond. They didn't even read my charges or read anything. Like, I haven't even been informed of what the maximum penalty is for whatever I did. They got me basically looking at walls. I'm not even allowed to talk to other people. I was really wanting to at least, I did get one opportunity when they were transferring me from cage to cage. I was talking to a gentleman, and he was like, oh, yeah. So he heard about a lot of this stuff, and I gave him my number. You know, we wrote it down on a little piece of toilet paper, and he held onto it. So I'm going to try to stay in touch with him when I get out, or if I get out. They might fucking gag me in there, who knows? You know, like they can get in my ears. That's mine.